My name is Sarah Irvin, and this is the second installment of the middle school level master classes for tenor saxophone. And today, the main topic is the chromatic scale. Before we get started, I just want to say that I hope everyone's doing well and hope everyone is continuing to practice and enjoying music. So now let's get to the chromatic scale. So the chromatic scale is a big topic to cover, but it's essential that you learn it to further your musical studies. So today we're going to be working off of these pages. Should be a link in the description, or you should be available to have this printed. We are doing the Scale Studies Level 2 for our purposes. And we'll be using this in the future too, so if you want to print that out now, you can pause the video, take a second to print that out, because I'm going to be talking about this today, and keep it for next week and the next weeks, because we will be coming back to this. So pause the video, do that now. Okay, so if you go to the very last page of this little packet, you will see the chromatic scale study. And this is the big topic for today. I'm going to be reading off of this and talking through it, so you should follow along. So, the chromatic scale is a lot different than the regular major scales you've learned. So, the main difference, I would say, between this scale and a regular major scale is that this scale has more notes. From a C to a C, there's 12 notes, 13 if you count the C on top. So today, that's what we're going to cover, that's what we're going to talk about, as well as harmonic notes, which is essential to know for the playing of the chromatic scale. So let's just get started. I'm going to talk through it first, and then we'll get the horn out, and we will go through it and play it. So, we start on a concert B flat, which, if you remember from the little transposition trick that I taught you from the last video, is our C. So we start on a C, and we go up an octave to a C, but between the C's are half steps. It's very important to note that they are half steps. They're not a full whole step away. You're just going up by half steps to the next note. So, going up, we have C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E natural, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B natural, C. And then going down, we have C, B natural, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E natural, E flat, D, D flat, and C. And we're just going to focus on this top line with the first 4 bars. We're just going to focus on this for the first little bit of this. So, I guess the main thing that I want to tell you first is that, so all those notes going up, all the ones that have sharps next to them are not entirely different notes than the next 2 bars where you see the flats. So this is a big topic that you can understand. I'm going to put it in the simplest terms, the easiest way to understand it, just so you have this in your head. So, I guess the first thing to say is that enharmonic notes are notes that look different on the page, but they're the same fingering on your saxophone. So, for instance, you see the very first measure, you see the C, the low C to the C sharp. So, that's just a half step away. But you see the C sharp. Now, I'm going to tell you that C sharp is the same as D flat, which we see at the end of the fourth measure, the next to last note is a D flat. So C sharp and D flat have the same fingering. It can be a tricky concept to get it first, but when you realize that you don't have to do a different fingering, it'll come really easy. So another example of this is the D sharp that you see, right after the D natural, the D sharp. The note coming down the chromatic scale that's the same as a D sharp is an E flat. On your saxophone, they're the same exact fingering, it's just they look different. So you might be wondering now, like, why do they look different? So the easiest way to explain why they look different is because as musicians, when we're reading music, it's easier to read sharps going on the way up a scale and flats going the way down. This is just because it's visually easier to understand, to recognize that the notes are just a half step away. If you understand that a sharp just raises something by a half step and a flat just lowers something by a half step, here, I'm gonna show you an example of this right now just so you can understand the concept. So I guess the best way to talk about this, I'm going to play an A. If you remember, our A on saxophone is just 1 and 2. I'm going to play A real quick. So here's an A. So if I want an A sharp, I go up by a half step. It's still an A, but it just gets a little higher. So I do 1 and 2, and then I'm going to hit the bottom of the 3 clusters right here. It'll give me an A sharp. This is what the A sharp sounds like. So I'm going to go back between an A and an A sharp real quick just so you can hear that. Now, if I want to take that A and flatten it, I would play an A flat. So an A flat is 1, 2, 3. And of the cluster here with the 4 buttons, it's this very top one closest to your ring finger. So here's an A flat. I'm going to go between an A natural and an A flat so you can hear it. So now I'm going to go A natural, A sharp, A natural, A flat, A natural, just so you can hear that. So A is a very good note to demonstrate the sharp and the flat values to the note. So the cool thing about the enharmonic tones is that you don't have to learn a different fingering. It's just the same note. It's basically just the same note. You just have to recognize that it's the same note, and that's the hard part to get over. Recognizing 2 different things as the same thing. So I'm going to teach you all the fingerings for it going up, and then going back down, I'm going to relate it to the note that got sharped, just so we have that in our head that it's the same exact fingering. So let's get started. Get out your saxophone. Here we go. So we start on a low C. We haven't gone over low C. We didn't go over it in the last lesson, but now we will. The lower range of the saxophone will take some air. It's just something to get used to playing, but it's very beautiful. The lower tones of the tenor saxophone are very beautiful, and I'd encourage you to get skilled with this. This scale is going to make you really comfortable in your lower range, and it'll get your fingers moving, so that's a great reason to just play it. So your low C on saxophone is in your left hand. You go 1, 2, 3. And then in your right hand, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then you have these pinky buttons right here. You have the top one and the bottom one. You want the bottom one. This is your low C. Okay. Now we're going to do a C sharp. So to get a C sharp, you still keep the fingerings for the C natural, but you add something. So let's go over this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Bottom pinky. And then you have this little cluster right here of 4 buttons. So the note that you want, the button that you want, is the farthest one out, the outer one. Not closer to the bell, you want it out away from the bell, the saxophone. So you want this outer one. And this is what C sharp sounds like. Okay. So now we're going to do a D, which the only difference between the low D and the high D is that for the low D, you don't have the octave key down in the back. Your thumb just rests on the little button right here on your saxophone. So your low D is 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Your pinkies don't do anything. They can just chill for a second. So here's the low D. Okay. Now we're going to learn D sharp. So D sharp is just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just like we played for D. Now the only difference is the 2 buttons down here for your pinky, you want the top one this time, the one closest to your ring finger, and that'll give us a D sharp. So here's what your D sharp sounds like. So now that I taught you the first 4 notes, we're going to go over them together, just so you can hear what they sound like together. I'm going to play it first, and then we'll play it together. So here's the first 4 notes of the chromatic scale starting on RC. This time, try it with me. I'm going to go just a little bit slower. So here we go. Good. So, those first 4 notes, the ones that are sharped have enharmonic equivalents, like I was talking about the enharmonic notes earlier. So, the C sharp is the same as a D flat, and the D sharp is the same as an E flat, which we will encounter the flats in a couple minutes. But I just wanted to make that distinction now. So now we're going to move on to the next cluster of 4 notes, starting on the E natural. So the E natural is 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. Here's E natural. Okay. Now F natural. 1, 2, 3, and then just your first finger right here. Just that one. Here's F natural. And now we go up a half step to F sharp. So F sharp is 1, 2, 3. And then the middle finger on your right hand. The middle finger, not the first one. You don't want the first one. You want the middle finger. So here's your F sharp. Cool. Now we're going to learn G. So G, if you remember, is just 1, 2, 3. Your right hand just hangs out. Here's your G. So I'm going to play those 4 notes that we just went over, starting on the E natural, just so you can hear those. How about you do that little bit with me? Starting on the E natural, I'm going to go a little bit slower. Here we go. Good. We're almost there. Okay. So the next 4 notes we're going to go over is G sharp. So here we go with G sharp. G sharp on your saxophone is just 1, 2, 3. And of the 4-note cluster right here on your left hand by your pinky, you want this very top one. And that's a G sharp. And then an A natural is just 1 and 2. Now to get the A sharp, I'm going to go 1, 2, we're going to keep that. And in the right hand, this little cluster of the 3 notes, you're going to hit this bottom one with this part of your finger. This part of your hand right here. It should hit. See the key opening? You want this bottom of the 3 buttons right here. You want the bottom. So here's the A sharp. Now we go to a B natural, which is just our first finger. Just the first finger. Here's a B natural. Okay. And then we finally have a C. So you know C already, it's just your middle finger. Here it is. Cool. So let's play those starting on the second measure, let's play just those notes. I'll play it first. Here it is. Starting on the G sharp. Do it with me, just a little bit slower. And there you just learned the chromatic scale going up. So now we're going to play those full 2 measures. I'll play it first, and then you try it with me. So here we go. Here's what it should sound like. Okay. Now let's try that together. Take a breath when you need to and just hop back in. Here we go. Awesome. So now we're going to learn going down. So all of these notes that you see going down, the next 2 bars that we haven't played yet, all the notes that we just covered, they just look a little bit different. So we just played a C. We know B natural. B flat is the same fingering for the A sharp, so it's just 1 and 2. And then the bottom button down here, that's your B flat. Then we know A natural. A flat is the same as the G sharp we talked about. So 1, 2, 3, and then the top pinky right here. And then we know G. G flat is the same as the F sharp we learned. So 1, 2, 3, and then the middle finger. And then we have E flat, which I talked about earlier, same as the D sharp. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the top pinky button right here. And then the next note that we haven't seen yet is the D flat, which is the same as C sharp. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, bottom pinky, and then the outermost pinky button right here. Not the one closer to the saxophone bell right here, the one the farthest out. So I'm going to play the chromatic scale going down, and then you'll play with me. So here is it going down. Has that sinking feeling. Feel like you're going down. So now you're gonna play that with me. We're gonna go just a little bit slower. Let's sink down to the C together. Here we go. Awesome. So now we're gonna play the whole scale. That was it. The going up and down. I'm gonna play it first and then you'll join me. Here's what the whole first 4 measures sound like. Let's do that together, just a little bit slower. Take a breath when you need to. Here we go. Awesome. So, you should be proud of yourself. You just learned the chromatic scale. So a lot of fingerings, a lot of things to remember on saxophone. Get your fingers definitely working. It's a good thing to warm up on. Get all your fingers moving. The next thing I want to talk about are the next 4 measures that you see there. So that's the same thing that we just did, but in triplets. So I'm going to play the scale going up, the first 2 measures. So here's what that sounds like with the 8th notes. And now this is what it sounds like with the triplets. So the only difference is the division of the beats. You can hear that instead of groupings of 2 like the top one had, it's now groupings of 3. So that's something that you can learn. It's something you can go over. Just think about the groupings. So triplet, 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 triplet. Instead of da 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 da, you go da 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 da. So da 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 da. Instead of the 2, it fits on the beats. It's now 3. So you can also start the chromatic scale on G, or any note that you really want to. Any note that you want to start on, say concert F, which is our G. So if you start the chromatic scale on G, you're going to play all the same notes, you're just starting on a different note. So if you were to do that, I'm going to play that real quick. We played all the same notes that we did when we started on C, we just started on G. So you can play this scale starting on any note, but you're always going to have the same sets of notes that we talked about. So you can start it from the C sharp, you can start it from the D, just any way that you think about it. This scale is something really important to learn. You should really get it under your fingers. Make sure that everything feels good. If you have problems with the lower register of the horn, which is very common on tenor sax, the cluster pinkies in the lower part where we saw the C and the C sharp, just go in between C and C sharp. Just make sure you get the feeling in your fingers, because it's really important to get the muscle memory of the scale. So yeah, I encourage you guys to practice this. Just have at it until you really play it really well. Go as slow as you need to. You can speed it up. But yeah, so this will keep you busy for a week. Make sure it feels really good on your fingers. Go back and review the fingerings if you have any questions. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I will see you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day. It's nice having this little time with you. Have fun with the chromatic scale. See ya!